It's been a fun night tonight on our final broadcast for O'Connor tonight. We started with Kurt Schlichter. Coming up, we've got Chris DeGaulle, and in a moment, one of our other very good friends and favorite guests is going to join us, talk about yesterday's impeachment hearings. And I want you to see this part right here, because Democrats, they've got to defend Joe Biden, and that ain't so easy right now. So what do? Well, of course, they turn to the politics of personal destruction. They slime, malign, slander, and attack the witness, in this case, Jonathan Turley, a well-respected lawyer with George Washington University. Watch.
Professor Turley, in 2006, you wrote an op-ed in The Guardian entitled, quote, "Stop Persecuting Polygamists." There, you likened polygamists to, quote, persecuted minorities, and you said polygamy is, quote, a practice with deep and good faith religious meaning. Isn't that what you said?
I represented the sister wives family in challenging a polygamy prosecution.
The answer is yes. You've been crusading for legalizing polygamy for years. In fact, in an op-ed in the USA Today, you said that a Utah polygamist named Tom Green, who was also convicted of pedophilia for raping his 13-year-old stepdaughter, should not have been charged with polygamy. Now, Mr. Chairman, we're counting.
Can I respond? Because it's not entirely accurate. I actually criticized him. What I was dealing with was the constitutionality of what is called morals legislation. And I admit I'm pretty libertarian.
Was Tom Green convicted of pedophilia and rape?
Government can
was he convicted of pedophilia and rape? The answer is yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's pretty slimy. But I guess we should be ready for this as this impeachment inquiry process moves forward. Joining us now is political commentator Smokin' Dave Marcus. Dave, you just wrote about this, a really good column there. Jonathan Turley, I think, can defend himself, but I appreciate you jumping in here. What did you see?
That was just absolutely disgusting. I mean, the first thing that jumps out at you is, what the hell did any of that have to do with impeachment? Jonathan Turley was there to talk about what the bar should be set at for an impeachment to occur in his esteemed professional capacity. The fact that he represented somebody who was a bad person, I mean, that's what lawyers do. And unfortunately, this has really become a pattern with the Democrats. You'll remember they did this to Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger. Remember that moment when they were called, Stacey Plaskett called them so-called journalists? Remember the look of shock on their face?
Right.
That was happening in Congress? Remember when a congresswoman told FBI whistleblower Marcus Allen, quoted a tweet that was supposedly his. He said, "That's not my Twitter account." And she pressed on and said, "Well, do you agree with it anyway?" I mean, This is character assassination. It's Stalin would be proud.
It is. It's character assassination, but it's also a tactic to send a signal to the other people who might be witnesses in this process. If you come forward, if you come after Biden, if you lend your credibility and your expertise to this, we will destroy you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not a subtle message at all. Any person who has information in regard to the Biden brand scandal or in regard to government corruption, really anything, they know that if they dare have the temerity to appear before the House of Representatives, thgoing to get maligned by these people. And that has real consequences in the world.
But David, you know, you're a Philly guy. You lived in New York. I'm going to take this one step further. This is a mafia tactic. This is intimidating the witnesses. This is letting the jury know, by the way, if you vote the wrong way, well, this is a real nice house. Hate to have something happen to it. Nice family you got there. Would hate for shame for something to happen to your daughter. I mean, this is the same kind of mentality.
100%. And listen, there's good reasons why members have a lot of latitude in terms of what they're able to say, you know, either on the floor of the House or during a hearing. They're supposed to. But Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries needs to step in here and tell these people to knock it off, because it's damaging to the country. I mean, people won't come forward because they'll be too frightened, just as you already said. I mean, they really need to knock it off.
Well, it's also, if I may sort of zoom out a little bit, this is the tactic of guilty people. This is a tactic of guilty people who are desperate to either change the subject or get out of punishment by using tactics like this. I mean, if anyone's objectively looking at this, when you have to resort to this kind of thing, it says that you're actually probably distracting from the reality, which is Biden is guilty of something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's exactly right. And the Democrats can keep saying no evidence, as evidence falls from the sky like manna. But, everybody's getting hip to the fact that that's just a lie.
Yeah. Moving on, though, I mean, you can't talk about the impeachment process without talking about the politics of it. Even if they do have the evidence, even if they do have a case, and I think they have a very strong case for high crimes and misdemeanors, what about the politics? There are Republicans in D.C. who would agree, yeah, absolutely, he should be impeached, but they are resistant to doing it because they think it's going to hurt them politically next year.
Yeah, I think I think Speaker Kevin McCarthy has handled this pretty well in terms of trying to bring those people along. And I do understand because you have a handful of members who are Republicans who won in districts that Biden won. So you can see why those members might be reticent to jump on board with the impeachment. But I think that we've reached a point where there's so much direct evidence now that he was on the phone with business partners of Hunter, that he was at dinner parties, that Devin Archer tells us that Hunter was actively selling influence, that I think these members have enough cover to at least be on board with the impeachment inquiry. I don't understand their reticence to vote for that.
Shifting to the Republican presidential sweepstakes, I think you and I may be the last men standing here in not committing to either of any of these candidates, frankly. It's almost like you have to be on one team or the other. Mostly it's the Trump and DeSantis team. And like you, I think we both have been openly praising and critical of both men when they deserved it. Where do you think this is headed right now? First, in terms of who might actually win this nomination, but secondly, how Republicans can sort of mend right now, because it seems like we're split in a major way, and it's hard to see how they get back together.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think right now, short of something massive changing, it looks like Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. DeSantis certainly still has a chance. I don't know that anybody else does. Maybe Vivek does, although he caught fire for a while and now has been sort of dropping in the polls. But I am nervous about everybody coming back together once there is a nominee. I mean, X is not the real world, but you already do see some of the sort of rapid response unofficial DeSantis team hinting that they might not vote for Trump in a general election. And that would obviously be a nightmare. So, hopefully whoever the nominee is, there's enough calm voices to bring everybody back to the table.
Well, and this is one of those things where I love to, paraphrase Will Rogers when he said, I don't belong to an organized political party, I'm a Republican. Of course, the line back then was he was a Democrat, but Democrats are good at this. Obama and Hillary, when they had their primary, boy, they hated each other. And that was right down the middle, 50-50 split. They figured it out by the time the election came around. Kamala Harris called Joe Biden a racist sex predator, and she ended up being the running mate. So why are Republicans, it appears, so bad at this?
I think that there are a couple of issues that really divide Republican voters, some of which have to do with Donald Trump, some of which don't. I mean, I think right now, for example, the war in Ukraine is a tricky issue for Republicans because there is a split among the voters. The politicians seem overwhelmingly in favor of more support for Ukraine, so there's a disconnect there. You're right. Republicans are messier, and this whole process has been messy. But I do think that's better than just marching to the drum of a single dogma.
Smokin' Dave Marcus, would you entertain a cigarette endorsement? Are we allowed to endorse tobacco products anymore in this country?
I think so. There's an independent cigarette company called Hestia, and the New York Times did a piece about them in which I was, it was noted that a conservative, journalist or something had smoked on Megyn Kelly's show, as I also smoked on your show.
And on the ill-fated O'Connor Tonight as well, by the way.
He'd just pay me in cigarettes, but
that's like cash money. When you're in prison, you actually use it as currency, I'm told.
What I'm told.
David Marcus, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for being such a great guest this entire year.
Thanks for having me, and congrats on the run of the show to something else.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Happy trails. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.